everyone, Atticus here. So I had this video in mind ever since I recently acquired a taste for art. So I figured why not highlight my top 5 favorite comic book artists. Now keep in mind I'm not your typical avid comic book reader. Call me a filthy casual, I guess, with a little sprinkle of intermediate interest in comic books. But recently getting into 18th century art kind of changed how I looked at things. It made me start paying more attention to the artists behind the work, not just the stories themselves. So here are my top 5 favorite comic book artists, and maybe you'll agree, maybe not. Comment below on who your favorite comic book artist is. Let's do it.
My favorite artists and Frank Frazetta, well, that's probably my 2 biggest influences, And I never really saw myself only as a comic artist. I really see myself as a painter, mostly. And comics is just one of the things I do.
You might recognize his work from my Silver Surfer Requiem dub. Esad's art really sticks with me, especially because of how grounded and realistic it feels. And the way he uses watercolor just kind of gives it a whole vibe. Now, I'll give you some quick background on him in case you haven't heard of him. He was born in Zagreb, Croatia, and graduated from school as a graphic designer. He's worked on computer games, illustrated some science fiction books, and he's had his work published in journals and newspapers, but he didn't start making comics until the 90s. He actually started out as an animator for a film company. But after some changes there, things took a turn. It became tough for him to keep working in Croatia and earn a fair wage, so he had to look for another path. After applying for some comic book work abroad, he got his first job with DC Vertigo in 1996. And then in 2000 eventually came over to work for Marvel Comics. Esad Ribic's style is like a blend of realism with a watercolor digital approach. So you always see this soft, natural look alongside his rich lighting. It feels a lot closer to classical painting than typical comic book art. Honestly, even a small piece of his work in front of you feels like you're looking at fine art. He's definitely one of my favorites. His most recent work is a 4-part miniseries released in 2024 called Aliens vs. Avengers.
So when I finished it and saw the actual collection, it was a different sense of accomplishment than seeing the actual individual issues. It felt more like something real. It was great to see it all collected.
All right, so if you're familiar with this guy, you should know him from the Joker Black Label series, and Batman Damned, and so many others. He writes, but my God, does he also draw. I mean, look at this. The gritty, hyper-detailed style invites that realistic take on all of his characters. So from what I've researched, I know he grew up in Queens, New York. He got into art really quickly and really early. He graduated from the School of Visual Arts in 1999, and then he began working in DC Comics as a cover artist and illustrator. He made his mark with Batman Noel, where he illustrated and wrote. Then he really stood out with the Joker and Lex Luthor Man of Steel books. Now, the Joker book won the Best Graphic Novel IGN Award in 2008, so I definitely recommend you check it out. He really dives into the psychology of the characters, so all of his work is more than just for show, but there is a substance behind it all as well. If you look closely at his artwork, you see the heavy shadows, and there's almost always some type of degree of strong emotion. They all feel almost human, and sometimes leaves you a bit uncomfortable in the process. I consider Lee Bermejo to be one of the most distinctive artists in comic books. He doesn't just draw the characters, he reinterprets them. He explores most of the darker, more complex aspects of superhero mythology. His current work at the moment is called The Vicious Circle, published by Boom Studios. It focuses on a future assassin who is seeking revenge against the only other person that's just like him. The catch is that every kill forces both of them to randomly jump through time. 1 minute, it's 22nd century Tokyo. The next, it's 1950s New Orleans or something, or even the age of dinosaurs. So you're a witness to a rivalry that stretches across millions of years. And then you see how it reshapes history. So it's a whole thing. I'm recently new to it. I hadn't heard of this before I started doing this research for this video. So I'm going to check it out, and you should too. So Mitch was first introduced to me by the Mr. Miracle series, written by Tom King. His artwork invites this type of gritty, cinematic realism combined with a painted, textured feel. I love his work. His current work is with DC Comics. Now, some background. I did read that he studied graphic design at the University of Wisconsin-Stout. Then he spent a few years illustrating packaging for major cereal brands like Cookie Crisp, Lucky Charms, and Trix. And then shortly after, he moved into comics. He started work again as a colorist for Boom Studios, and then moved to DC Comics thereafter. So this guy has a lot of accolades, and I love his artwork. During an interview at WonderCon, he talked a little bit more about his background. I'll link the article in the description of the video. He does talk about how he met Tom King, and how he got the job to work on the Mr. Miracle 12-issue series. He was finishing Punisher, and at the time, the Vertigo editor reached out with new project ideas. Gerads was pitched the idea of Mr. Miracle after hearing Tom King was going to write it, and he was immediately hooked. He was asked to do a tryout with the Vertigo comic Sheriff of Babylon, where his attention to detail really stood out. Now, that effort impressed Tom King and helped him land the project for Mr. Miracle. From there, they realized how similar their creative mindsets were. That's how they got a strong working relationship, and it eventually leads to Mr. Miracle.
Mr. Kirby, why do you think your artwork is so popular?
My artwork is popular because it connects with the ordinary person, and they can understand it very easily. And I've always meant it to be so. I've never confined my art to a particular section of humanity. I love people in general. My art reflects it, and that's the way it's always been.
So for this next one, yes, I'm going to be a little cliche and just say Jack Kirby. I mean, why not? He represents that peak period in comic books. And you don't have to have lived during when Kirby was around to know his work. When you analyze Kirby's work, you see some of the thick, confident outlines, the heavy shadows, that bold, exaggerated style he had. His art was a definitive form of pop art. And for an artist that made contributions to both Marvel and DC, Kirby has a lot of range and reputation that's difficult to ignore. I mean, this guy drew just about everything. Fantastic Four, the Hulk, Spider-Man, Avengers, Silver Surfer, X-Men, you name it, and even some DC names I don't even know about, but he drew it. He revolutionized the language of comic books through both his storytelling and artwork. There is a book that does highlight some facts about Kirby's relationship with Stan Lee, however. So you should check out Kirby and Lee Stuff Set. I'll link where to buy the book in the description box. But this was published just a few months after Stan Lee's passing. It examines the relationship between Jack Kirby and Stan Lee through their own words, and captures how their collaboration thrived. Then you see how it declined and how it fell apart. You also get some insights from other Marvel creators and explores their careers after separating, but you can read all about Kirby's struggles for credit and ownership in that book. Now, for the moment, I'll just briefly touch on the conflict for context, and this is primarily an artist spotlight, but you can't talk about Kirby without acknowledging this part. Alright, so the tension between Jack Kirby and Stan Lee came from Lee being both the collaborator and the boss. And he took most of the public credit as a writer despite Kirby plotting most of the stories. So over time, Lee steps back from co-plotting. He leaves it to Kirby to handle both the story and the art, but Lee occasionally would require revisions without any additional pay when he just didn't like the direction of the story. So this imbalance, along with broader issues over compensation and recognition, this left Jack Kirby feeling exploited and unsupported. And in his frustration, Kirby eventually left for DC Comics. And then much later, he returned back to Marvel to do one final collaboration before their partnership ends for good. I believe it was a Silver Surfer graphic novel between Kirby and Stan Lee.
This is Alex Ross's world. He not only collects it, he creates it. In nearly 30 years as an artist and illustrator, he's painted almost every popular superhero. His work for DC was collected in the book Mythology, and his work for Marvel has just been published in Marvelocity.
Is there a big difference between drawing for DC and Marvel, or is it essentially the same job?
It's kind of a difference based upon mood and vibe of the material. There's something about the stoic heroes of DC that can be contrasted against the hyperkinetic heroes of Marvel. I knew from whatever you might call a very early age, this is what I wanted to do, period. I wanted to make art of superheroes. I wanted to, sort of live in their skin full time if I could.
And last but not least, Alex frickin' Ross. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, you should know Alex Ross. This is an artist that delves into that hyperrealism and really brings both Marvel and DC characters to life in a new way. Now, I've been a fan of Alex Ross for as long as I can remember. I dreamed to one day have one of his paintings on the back of my wall, some of the large landscape ones that he usually draws and paints. Now, his characters are usually posed like statues or some type of propaganda art. Now, with him, it's always less motion and more of an emphasis on presence. But his art style has always been to show real anatomy, real lighting, just real people and not a bunch of cartoons. And I noticed that his style doesn't try to make the superheroes look cool, he makes them look important. And that's what always stood out for me. Now, some of his more notable work would be his covers, with very few interior art done for some of the books that he's published. But if you check out Marvels from 1994, this is basically what launched his career. He's one of the most respected comic book artists and is usually compared to Norman Rockwell. Now, The Marvels is basically a 4-issue series about superheroes from the perspective of just a normal guy, but he documents everything and takes note of the impact on society by superheroes. Alex Ross's art in this one really changes how you experience superheroes, and you see its real history unfold in front of you. If you want some more Alex Ross, check out this video. This is Alex Ross speaking about the 25th anniversary of the Marvels book. It's under 10 minutes, and it's just Ross going over his experience working on the book. Alright, if you made it this far, thank you. I genuinely appreciate you taking the time to watch and listen. This video took a little longer than expected, mainly because of the amount of research, editing, script work, yada yada yada. Listen, I'm not complaining. I love doing this. It just takes a long time to do, so I appreciate your patience. But listen, as always, I try to keep everything sounding natural while still delivering the best quality I can possible. Between that and the usual ups and downs of life and work, it can be a lot to juggle, but listen, it's always worth it. Next up, Wolverine Origins comic book dub. Now this is just a flash stub, so may not take as long to put together. Anyways, this is Atticus with another World Spoken. See ya.